We are now going to focus on question 6.2, which involves the reconciliation of debtors. In the required part, we need to prepare a debtors control account or fair deal finishes on the 31st of December 20.7, and then secondly, the B part, we need to reconcile the balance of the debtors control account with a list of debtors. The first thing that you should take note of is the fact that the closing balance of the debtors control account in the general ledger, as was provided to us, is not equal to the total of the list of debtors. If you have a look at additional information number 1. The closing balance, for example, in the debtors control account as given was 3,300, but the total according to the list of debtors was 7,180. Those two balances should have been the same, because in total, our debtors, according to the debtors control account, is 3,300, but according to the sum total of the individual accounts from the debtors ledger, they are owing us 7,180 rand. We need to bring these two balances basically to the same balance by doing a reconciliation process. If we look at the debtors control account in the general ledger, on the debit side specifically, we will see, for example, that the bank account, with regards to the debit column, reflects the payment received from debtors. That should be on the credit side. When we have credit losses, it means that debtors' accounts have been written off. They are not owing us anymore. That should also belong to the credit side. Therefore, the payments received and the accounts written off should not be on the debit side of the debtors control account. When we are going to do part A of the required, then when we reconstruct the whole debtors control account from scratch, then these two accounts, bank and the credit losses, should move towards the credit side. When we look at the credit side of the account, we first see that there's an item credit losses recovered. Now we need to remember that credit losses recovered are basically debtors who were previously written off, came to pay us a couple of months or even years later. They are currently not debtors in our books. So therefore, when we do get a credit loss that is recovered, we usually debit bank and credit losses recovered. Because these guys are not part of the debtors anymore in our books, they should not form part of the debtors control account at all. Therefore, we will not include it in the new reconstruction of the debtors control account. The debtors allowances, returns that debtors made to us. So when they return goods to us, they are basically not owing us. Debtors allowances should therefore be on the credit side of the debtors control account. Then we see sales was given to us, total sales. Firstly, because we are concentrating on debtors, we need to find out what was the credit sales. And secondly, we need to remember that when we sell on credit, it increases the debt of our debtors. Debtors are part of our assets. Assets increase on the debit side. Therefore, the sales, specifically credit sales, should be reflected on the debit side when we are going to do the reconstruction of our debtors control account. Also, the bank EFT that was reversed reflects a payment that was originally received from a debtor that the bank has now returned and said, no, there was insufficient funds, for example, therefore we cannot give you the money. So now we need to cancel that monies that we have supposedly received, and therefore the debtor is basically owing us again. Therefore, on the debit side, when we are going to do the new debtors control account, the EFT reversal should be reflected on the debit side, increasing the debt of the debtors again. Therefore, if we look on the credit side, credit losses recovered should be omitted when we are going to do the new debtors control account. Debtors allowances are standing on the correct side. The sales should move to the debit side, specifically credit sales. And the monies which we thought we have received is now owed back to us again. and that should move to the debit side. When we do reconstruct our debtors control account, we will start off with last month's opening balance beginning of this month. Therefore, on the debit side, we will have our sales, we will have our bank, the EFT reversed, we will have our interest income. On the credit side, we will have the bank, payments received, debtors allowances, as well as credit losses written off. We will start the part B with a list of debtors with a total given. Remember to always show the calculations of your various accounts in brackets. Now we need to work through the additional information. In additional information number 1, the total of the list of debtors will be used as part of required part B, which is our point of departure, and we will then need to remember, although we are going to reconstruct the whole debtors account or debtors control account in the general ledger for the whole month, we are not going to reconstruct each and every debtor's individual account. We will only therefore adjust the individual balances. Point number 2 said that sales, or 60% of sales, was conducted on credit basis. Therefore, we need the credit sales to increase the date of debtors on the debit side of the debtors control account. So therefore, our sales on the debit side will now be 18,000 Rand. Point number 3, they said we are charging interest. No entry was made. Therefore, the general ledger account as well as the individual account of the debtor will be affected. In our debtors control account on the debit side, because we are charging interest, the total debt of debtors will increase with this new interest income that we will be earning, 200 Rand. Therefore, we will debit interest income in the debtors control account, but debtor money now owes us 200 Rand, and we need to add that 200 Rand to the total of the list of debtors. Point number 4 said basically that the credit side of the debtors control analysis column in the general journal was undercast by 1,000 Rand. Undercast basically mean we have added up with too little. There's 1,000 Rand basically short. Because it was the debtors analysis column on the credit side, it basically says that the debt of debtors had to decrease. Therefore, on the credit side in our debtors control account, as part of bank, decreasing the debt of debtors, we need to add this 1,000 Rand to the bank. This does not affect the list of debtors as no individual debtors account was affected. Number 5 said that debtors allowances of 90 Rand for goods returned by debtor Carl were approved, but have not yet been recorded. Because nothing has been recorded, it will affect our general journal because it must be entered there. From the general journal, it will affect the debtors control account in the general ledger, but also it will affect the individual account of debtor Carl in the debtors ledger. So therefore, we will have on the credit side of the debtors control account as part of debtors allowances, we need to add the 90 Rand on the credit side as it further decreases the debt of the total debtors. In the list of debtors, we will have Carl decreasing with 90 Rand, and the total of the list of debtors was therefore also decrease with 90 Rand. Remember to indicate the subtraction or the decrease in the list of debtors with brackets. At number 6, the balance of the debtor Piet of 350 Rand was erroneously entered as 530 Rand on the list of debtors. Therefore, because it's only the individual account of the debtor that's affected, it will only affect the debtors list, no effect on the debtors control account. In other words, the entry was originally correct in the general journal. It was only posted erroneously to the individual account. So we have posted this closing balance as too much. it should be 350 instead of 530. How do we get from 530 to 350 Rand? We need to decrease Piet's account with 180 Rand. Therefore, in the list of debtors, we need to subtract Piet with 180 Rand. With regards to number 7, a debtor's allowance of 300 Rand was approved for debtor Johan, but it was posted by mistake to the debit side of his account. Again, in this case, it only affects debtor Johan, because they said it was posted by mistake to the debit side of his account. So the 300 Rand is currently standing on the debit side of his account. To correct this erroneous entry, we need to credit his account 2 times with 300 Rand. The first time, we will credit it to cancel the erroneous error, but then the amount actually doesn't reflect on his account anymore. So we need to credit his account with a second 300 Rand to show that this allowance is now on the credit side. So therefore, on the list of debtors, Johan's balance, or the total of the list of debtors, basically must be decreased with 600 Rand. At number 8, Koos has deposited money into our account. So we thought we got his money, but then the bank let us know that there was no money actually received from Koos. So now, because his account was originally credited, now, because of this reversal, we need to cancel the previous credit entry. No entry was yet made for this reversal. So therefore, both the debtors control account and the list will be affected. So where we thought we have received the money, decreasing the date of the debtors as well as the individual account of Koos, now we need to add back this 46 Rand on the debit side of debtors control, as because this entry was not yet recorded, the total debt of debtors will be increasing because of Koos's individual account that he is now owing us the 46 Rand again. At number 9, they said that the account of debtor Gert with a debit balance of 480 Rand was not included in the list of debtors. Therefore, it's only affecting the list of debtors. There wasn't a mistake made with the previous entry in the general journal. They just omitted Gert's balance from the list of debtors, so we just now need to add Gert to the list of debtors. At number 10, they said it was determined that the list of debtors was undercast by 120 Rand. Again, only the list of debtors will be affected here. No effect on the control account, as the original entry in the general journal was correct. Now, because the balance that was given to us, or the total of the list of debtors, the 7,180 Rand, was added up with 120 Rand too little, undercast. Now we need to just make this correction by adding this 120 Rand as a correction to the undercast error on the list of debtors. At number 11, they said the following transaction was not yet recorded, and that's that debtor Benny, who owed us 380 Rand in total, was declared insolvent. We received 25 cents in the Rand. Therefore, if we work out because the transaction was not yet recorded, it will affect both the debtors control and the list of debtors. Therefore, on the debtors control account itself, we need to decrease the account on the credit side with bank, and the bank that was given as 23,000 Rand, we need now to add the 95 payment received. And on the credit side, with regards to the credit losses, further decreasing the total debt of debtors, we need to add this 285 Rand to the 600 that was given as credit losses. On the list, the total debt of debtor Benny must be written off